We are live, live, still alive. Like how many? What? 8 teams still alive. 8 teams are
Oh,
technically
oh,
dead. Is that right?
right up. I was
And
ready for that segue.
oh
Holy
man, look,
moly.
this
Holy.
improvision is definitely top notch. We're starting half an hour earlier, right? That's the extra energy in
Maybe
the bank
that's,
here.
yeah,
Your
that's the key.
graphics are still terrible, man. I don't know what's going
No,
on.
all right, all right, all right. So what I've done, obviously, I've got a nice new setup, and I'm actually looking at my monitor because I got this plugged into a monitor. So that's why I'm not going to make eye contact with you the whole time. But I actually think now I need to probably invest in a camera to sit there so that when I look at the monitor, it does look like I've got eye contact. So
Is
just enjoy this very socially awkward podcast where I just don't. I'm looking at you. I promise I'm looking at you,
is the
but
camera
you're not going
is
to
is the camera built into your monitor? Is
know.
that what you're saying? Is that a
No,
laptop?
so I've just got a laptop currently. So
Okay.
I'm looking at buying a desktop, but I think the quickest solution would be just get one of those USB extenders, and I'll just grab one of those like cheap webcams and chuck it up there. Just things to do, which hey, like we talk about two guys with spare time. I just got to get around to it in my spare time. So
Look,
this week,
you could also start up an Amazon wish list, right? You need a $29 webcam. Maybe someone will
this
help you out here.
oh, is that that sounds like we're begging, and that's a whole other thing. Let's let's get into some playoffs. So
Sorry,
we've got two
are you
games
talking to
tomorrow.
me or are you talking to someone else? I can't tell because
No,
you're looking
what are
somewhere
you
else.
talking about? I'm doing fine. I'm fine. Just go with it. Jeez, all right. I can't lift. I don't want to lift my laptop up the whole time.
You got to hold that laptop in
That's
front
pretty
of you
good,
to get
actually. I
that
should
eye
hold it like
contact.
that.
There you go.
I'm look,
Oh, okay.
I'm looking great.
Just the awkward side eye now.
Yeah, just to yeah. All right. We got two games on tomorrow, and the whirlwind of the first round's done. It did take a full 2 weeks because your beloved Magic could not get the job done on the road. The home team won every single game along the way. Any thoughts on, I guess, the last two games from the Cavs and Magic, or
Well, now that our season's done, I can, as a Magic fan, go, hey, that wasn't too bad a season. Yeah, we improved, right?
yeah?
I've spent the whole season not jinxing this, not setting my expectations too high. We got to where we got to before we traded Vucevic and we traded AG, we traded Evan Fournier and all that. First round we lost, but hey, we lost in seven versus we lost in five. That's improvement, surely, right? And we got a younger core, so maybe Franz Wagner will go work on his jump shot during the off season because I think he shot something like 1 from 15 in this game seven. Ouch. But that's all right. That's all right. And I guess it's funny because I read this article comparing Magic with the OKC Thunder in some aspects, and I was like, we're nowhere close to where the OKC Thunder are right now. I think that was a highly optimistic take in where the Magic is sitting in the East and in the hierarchy of teams right now. But hey, look, positive vibes. We got to the playoffs. Let's see what happens next season. Maybe we'll go for another first round. Maybe we'll get it done in 8 or 9 games.
Oh, okay, yeah. There's obviously a change to the format that I'm not familiar with. Obviously, Paolo showed out. I think that's probably the one thing. It's nice to know that one of your young stars is a legit young star, and Paolo doing that with 38 and 16 in that last game. And obviously had a really good series across the board. So now he's obviously motivated. He'll make some improvements because there are some things that he also needs to keep developing. But yeah, Franz Wagner going 1 of 15 and really having quite a disappointing series from where, I think a lot of the season we talked about him and Paolo being, 1A, 1B. And I think they really figured out that hierarchy in the series. And now we kind of know it's Paolo's team and Franz is the running mate. So, but you know what? Like even Suggs had a pretty good season, but tonight goes 2 for 13. And, outside of Wendell Carter Jr. doing his role of 13 and 7 on good shooting, no one else really met Paolo Banchero. And you know what? I'm going to segue it into the Cavs matchup because we're just talking a lot about the Cavs. Cavs only beat them by 12. And obviously the Cavs had to go to 7 games and had to have Donovan Mitchell go absolutely insane several times, including going insane on a 50 bomb and still losing. So the Cavs go up against the Celtics. It's the 1v4 matchup. And the Celtics obviously without Porzingis coming off a gentleman's sweep of the Miami Heat. But Derek White coming out as being the most important player in that series. And that probably is the theme of Boston. We know that Cleveland needs Donovan Mitchell to play well for them to have a chance. I don't know if we need Jason Tatum to play well for the Celtics to beat Cavs, or we don't need Jaylen Brown to play well for the Celtics to beat the Cavs, or they don't even need Porzingis to beat the Cavs. And I think that's where this matchup, on paper at least, because you can always be surprised by things, but on paper, surely the Celtics can take this in 5 or 6 because they have the more talented squad across the board and they have flexibility in who can go off. Whereas I think the Cavs, if Donovan Mitchell doesn't play very well, they don't really get much else from anyone else. Enough, or at least not to discredit like a 15-10 from Mobley or Allen, or a 20-10 from Garland, but in the playoffs, you really do need those 30-plus point scorers on a night-to-night basis to really give you the edge, because these teams are obviously play very hard and get very competitive. So I'm going to go Celtics in 6 because I actually think Celtics like losing games when they should be winning them. So yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, it's somewhat of a disappointing series when you don't have all your core players there, right? Especially your starters in that sense. Jarrett Allen, injury cloud right now. Porzingis probably will miss much of the series, if not the whole series potentially. So it's sort of all the other players to sort of pick up the pieces here in that sort of sense. And yeah, look, I don't know. I'm sitting here. I'm like, I wanna give the Cavs some love, but there's playing no logic. This guy's just trying to pick an underdog here, and some long odds to sort of somehow justify why I think they can win a 7-game series here. Um, Look, Mitchell would have to average 40 a game, and it's just not. It's play, and even if you average 40 a game, they potentially might still not win a 7-game series. So
Mm.
yeah, look, end of the day, Celtics did finish 60 wins, 60 plus wins this season for a reason. I think they'll probably get a job done in 5, in fact, really.
All right, and then watch them go to a game 7 because they don't know how to finish. We'll do the other East series because obviously, when you get down to the final 4 from each conference, there's only 2 matchups to talk about. That was really on the nose by me. I'm glad I said that. That was totally good content. We got Pacers and Knicks. So Pacers obviously go on to upset the Bucks, and the Knicks take care of the Philadelphia 76ers, which I don't know if you saw the graphic going around, but that series was really tight in terms of the total points scored over the games. It was 760 versus 758, or 770 versus 766. But it was a close series overall, and obviously had some overtime, some buzzer beaters, some close games. And now the Knicks go on to play the Pacers, and the Pacers beat up on a declining Bucks. I don't know how you want to put it. I don't know if we need to unpack the Bucks issues there. They've got 2 Achilles issues, it seems, with their superstar. So that's it's good 100 million spent there. Jalen Brunson playing fantastic. Obviously, Thibodeau's got his 6-man lineup ready to go for 45 minutes every game. The Pacers are feisty and interesting. Is this the one that you feel like there's an upset? I'm going to actually hear your prediction first because I need more time with mine.
Look, I picked the Knicks to go all the way, right? And I guess I'm not going to jump off that train right now. I think the Pacers drew a hobbled opponent first round. They actually had the Bucks number pretty much every game this season, I think, for some reason or another. Bit odd actually. I remember all the way back in, I don't know when it was, maybe December, even that over that game ball, and Giannis went off,
Yep.
and then the first time, first gamer sort of tried to steal that game ball, or something along those lines. And I guess that's all come to a head now that the Bucks are done, and they've got some rehab to do over the summer, I guess, and hopefully, look, I'd actually like to really see them being healthy. I feel like they could be a real threat, and it'd probably be not a bad thing to see Dame and Giannis go as deep as they could in the playoffs. That could be quite and some good viewing there, but clearly not this season. That said, though, look, I read this article again about the Knicks though, and obviously Thibodeau plays his players heavy minutes, and the article is these players are going to fatigue. And that may be a factor in these playoffs, whether this round or the next round. And I'm a little bit curious whether you sort of subscribe to that sort of thought as well. Whether playing 40 plus minutes at this point of the season is a smart thing, or not a great thing, that they should probably be dropping those minutes mindfully for that exact reason that fatigue does accumulate over time. But look, like I said, I'm still on the Knicks train right now. I'm going to say Knicks in 6.
Okay. Yeah, look, the minutes thing, everyone tightens their rotations and there's an expectation you play more minutes. So Thibodeau's just had his players been ready since game 1. So, hopefully that pays off for him. Can the Pacers be feisty here? I think they can, right? So that's why I don't hate your prediction of Knicks and 6. I just a part of me wants to pick Indiana. I don't know why. I just feel like there's something about the Knicks that I don't necessarily trust. And then Jalen Brunson will probably score 45 points every game and prove me wrong. So just for agreeable good times, I'm going to also say that the Knicks will get the job done in 6. I think that, yeah, look, unless Indiana can really exploit some matchups there, I think Siakam would be a big difference maker. If Tyrese can play as consistent as he needs to, then maybe they're a little bit more competitive. But yeah, I don't.
I think was it
The
game how many did they win in the first round? 5 games, 6 games. The Pacers beat the Bucks in five
They
or
beat him in
six.
6.
In six, okay.
They had
And
to go to 6.
game six, obviously I think Obi Toppin and TJ McConnell both led the Pacers in scoring. Some sort of odd factor of 2 players that came off the bench that actually led a playoff game in scoring or something like that. And I think that play really underscores the the situation the Bucks found themselves in. If you're letting these 2 players somehow go off, pop off to lead the Pacers in scoring there, you've got some internal issues you really need to address there. Maybe fire Doc Rivers or something. I don't know, but it's I guess look, I think the Knicks are a very different opponent here. Yeah, look, I guess we're both saying that the Pacers are not gonna be able to get past them.
Well, you leave Doc Rivers alone because he actually did what he was supposed to do of a 3-1 record, which was lose. So well done to Doc. Congratulations, you finally conquered that old chestnut.
Is Phil Jackson available?
I think Phil Jackson might have officially aged out of it. I think it's over. Let's go over to the West. So game 2's tomorrow. This is the joys of sweeping your opponents. Pretty much, you get to play really quick, and it's the Timberwolves versus the Nuggets. And it's a shame that game 1 happened because obviously we could have made some proclamations and then swerved. I think the default pick is that Denver was going to go all the way in the West. That's what felt comfortable back to back. And then Minnesota's come out in game 1 and done something that not many teams have done to Denver and actually made them look beatable. They've, had really even scoring across their team with Ant obviously popping off when he needed to. Naz Reid proving that he's the 6th man of the year. But it was probably the defensive pressure and the game plan that they had for Jokic, in which, we've kind of gotten accustomed now for almost like 300, 400 consecutive games that Jokic does what he wants. And if you want to let him score, well, he kills you on that. And if you want to let him play make, he kills you on that. And this was probably the first game where they actually sped him up and he had some uncomfortable plays and he didn't really get what he wanted. And when you look at it, they have a margin to carry. I'm not putting too much stock in scores because, it's a 7-point game, but it was not a great game from Denver. And you have to look at it and say, did Minnesota play at their absolute peak? So if they played at their absolute peak, that's how they steal this game. But a part of me does feel like Timberwolves could still play better than what they did. We have a couple of low-scoring quarters there, and that doesn't help you out. And the 2 bigs gave them problem last year. So when they talked in the post-finals tours, they talked about Minnesota being their hardest matchup, despite the fact that Phoenix took 2 games off them and Minnesota only took 1. And I think that size is a problem for the Nuggets. And Gobert and Cat have proven this year that they can play quite well together. So I'm going to swerve. I'm feeling swervy, and I wanted at least one series to be a swerve, and I think this is the series. I think Timberwolves are actually going to pull it off. I think they're going to get this one in 6 or 7.
6 or 7. I like that moderate fence sitting there. That how about 5, 6, or 7? But,
No, not in 5. Not in 5.
Not 5. Not 5. Definitely not 5. Yeah. I guess. Look, did you watch any of this game? Like, I have not watched any games. I know you have league pass. Is that
just
correct?
Highlights.
Okay.
I use take advantage of the highlights sometimes. The 10, 15-minute videos that they put up. That's what I'm going off. So it doesn't help with game flow. I agree, but there is enough in the highlights to see defensive stops or turnovers and kind of see what they were doing. And then obviously you listen to other people talk about the game and, you read some stuff and there's some interesting things about how they played Jokic. That's the big one.
I think, look, firstly, looking at the box score, all right, and I have not probably watched many game highlights from this specific matchup, or this game 1. 7 turnovers to Jokic. That's probably uncharacteristic. Yeah, like you said, they tried to make him uncomfortable in certain ways to make him cough up the ball a little bit more there. And Edwards obviously went off 43 points, career high, 17 from 29. Is that sustainable? Yeah, that's a question you got to ask there. You know, at the end of the day, it was a 7 point win. And I think you're going to go swervy again at the end of this series because your swervy is going to swerve right off the road. Because I think everyone's getting a panic mode here because the Nuggets dropped the game. So what? It's probably a good thing that they dropped the game, that they got to get a little bit more motivation and sort of, make some, better rotations on offense and defense and just across the board the championship is not a walk in the park, right? You got to earn those 16 wins, and sometimes you need that wake up call. And I think this sort of result and this sort of game one is probably a perfect situation for them in that sort of sense. Long as they win game two, yeah, and winning game two, going to Minnesota and trying to pinch one of those games on the road puts the series back in the home court advantage. Yeah, I think that's the the real maths here, and so I'm still going to ride with the champs here. I think they still got the experience and the depth to get it done. I'm going to say that it's going to go wide. I'm going to say seven. I'm going. This game is going in seven. You'll go back to the Denver for game seven, and maybe that thin air will just help them push them around, across that line there, maybe.
Yeah, look, I think if we touch base next week and Minnesota's pulled off a sweep or a 4-1 or Denver's won four straight, we'd both be quite shocked. It just doesn't feel like these two teams match up to have one team just dominate the other. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But it's always nice when your team gets beaten by a good team because maybe Phoenix weren't that bad. They just went up against the juggernaut in the Timberwolves. Who knows? Um, and then our last matchup, it's the OKC taking on the Mavs. The Mavs obviously pull up the upset against the Clippers. That upset is quote unquote just because of the record. Obviously, the Clippers ended up running out of health yet again in the playoffs. Wow. I feel bad for journalists who need to make money out of that article because that article's already been written 1,000 times. But Luka and Kyrie looking good. Luka getting into the second round, going up against a young stud in Shea. This one also feels really evenly matched. So when you look at the East series, you feel like Boston and New York should probably get the job done pretty well. And if they both swept their teams or got a 4-1 victory, you'd be pretty content. In the West, though, I can't see how the series goes less than 6 games. I think you look at OKC and, they played a pretty average New Orleans Pelicans team. So this is their real legitimate shot. But Shea and Luka are going to go toe for toe with their MVP stats, 38-8 probably consistently as a minimum. Kyrie's going to go off, but then so is Jalen Williams. Chet's going to be a bit of a difference maker, but then, Dallas also has their own respective different makers from game to game. PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford coming across, kind of helping secure their front court. I almost want to say that the series is going to go OKC in 6 or Dallas in 6, and I actually don't know who to pick at this point. So I'm going to pass it on to you, and then I'll come back to a definitive answer.
Maybe we should I'll put a little asterisk here. We can come back to this point where I don't even remember nearly 2 years ago now. I guess I was all about Chet Holmgren over Banchero. Yeah, I would have loved us to have taken him. Even if you suffered that injury and sat out that first season versus, don't get me wrong, Banchero's turned into a all-star 2010 guy. But I think that Chet is a sort of a unique player that really can help your team win, which he has shown in OKC. And I love OKC. I really love OKC. All right, I think I love what they've done this season. I love their core. So it's nice when you got an Aussie there, sort of in the as a starter that's actually sort of really sort of how to still succeeding clearly in the NBA, is still getting minutes and being fairly productive, even if his numbers are down, I guess, because of the depth that OKC has. I think though, here's the thing. This is Luka's series. This is Luka's time now to show that he is in that conversation to be the GOAT. And something we've talked about as well. And one of the greatest of all time, to be top 10 by the time his career is done. Yeah, maybe even top 5, depending how many rings he can sort of, grab. And it's not all on him, clearly, because, the Mavs have to make the right moves. His teammates have to stay healthy. Everyone has to play their part, okay? But he's no longer that young. Yeah. Okay. And I'm not necessarily saying, look, I haven't picked the Mavs to win the championship. Okay. But I'm saying this series, though, is one that doesn't feel like the Mavs should drop and Luka can lose. Last season, he maybe got a free pass. Maybe you could say front office sort of shot themselves in the foot there, and they basically gave up the last few games and didn't even want to try and play playoffs. Okay, the season before, I think they were eliminated by Golden State, or one of more vet sort of teams, and Luka was 2 years younger. Yeah, so you could still make the sort of statement that he's still so young, he's under 25, he's still sort of it's not his time yet, but he's drawn now a team that is on that young timeline. Yeah, these are two teams now that are built along that next gen superstars that are on that next timeline. SGA is clearly a superstar, and Luka is obviously a superstar too, and they're going to go head to head here. And I think that this is going to be an opportunity, and I think this is the series that Luka starts to put his stamp on his conversation into that he should be one of the greatest players of all time. So I'm going to say Mavs will get this one done. I'm going to say seven. Yeah, I'm gonna say seven. Yeah, two epic. I'm picking 2 7-game series here in the West. Yeah, I guess that's good money, right, for the NBA. All right, but yeah, look, if Luka doesn't win this, if the Thunder win this, and it wouldn't be shocking if they won it. Okay, they're the best team in the West. They had the best record. Okay, it would be a setback for Luka, and sort of saying that he can sort of take that next year. He is up there in that conversation to be one of the greatest of all time.
I like what you're saying about the Lucas series, but I guess you could make the exact same case for Shea, right? So like Shea is, I think, 26 or 27. So, he's obviously slowly risen into his stardom, unlike Luka, who's just been phenomenal from the get-go. And
But
so,
this team is young.
this is
Thunder's
this is
team is young.
important. Yeah, this is important for Shea just as much as it is for, I guess, Luka. Obviously, the difference is Shea doesn't have a running mate who has experience in playoffs, right? So we kind of saw that in a couple of games with the Clippers. Kyrie took over.
Mm-mm.
Kyrie was the focal offensive point because Luka didn't have it or Luka couldn't get it going. And the fact that he has an additional closer is probably the edge that would get me to say Dallas and 6. But I'm not going to go 7. I do think like that youth is not going to allow them to get that many games. But I think we're in for a real treat with the Western Conference. I think we're just awaiting Knicks and Boston the next season series, and then that could potentially be interesting. But not to project too far ahead forward, but it really feels like Boston's conference to lose. I know you've obviously tipped the Knicks, but it does feel like Boston's conference to lose. Whereas right now we're looking at 4 legitimate teams, I think, that can be in the finals from the West. Obviously with Minnesota getting that first game and being quite assertive, it's not unfathomable to say that, any team from the West could represent it. And we'll know pretty soon if we're going to have a new champion, or not. Really, it's going to be pretty obvious. So good time to be an NBA fan. I think after the first round where there was a lot of formalities to go through with the lower seed pretty much losing all the time, except in the Clippers case, but injuries, and the Bucks case, but injuries. So I think now we're down to the top 8 teams and figuring out, well, maybe top 6, actually, when I say it out loud, maybe top 6 teams.
Look, I guess we'll be keen to see how these couple next games shake out. But I guess I'm also keen to see how the Lakers coaching hire shakes out, Matt. What's going on there? Like, I was reading this. I feel like I said this line 3 times now tonight. I read this article this week about that they've gone through 6 coaches in 13 years, I think. And it's all about Phil Jackson and obviously how successful he was, and no one can replicate Phil Jackson. And Phil Jackson is the GOAT. I don't know. Would you agree with that one? I don't know. Is Phil Jackson the GOAT for coaches here in the NBA? But hey, look. I guess who's the next coach that's going to come to Lakerland and do 2 seasons and then get fired and get paid out another 2 seasons? I don't know. What do you think?
Adrian Griffin.
Why not?
No, because you know what? I think the hard part with Adrian Griffin is you could talk yourself into it because he had a better record than Doc did statistically. Like, the Bucks were better before Doc Rivers came along. I know they had some defensive issues, but then when you look at someone like Anthony Davis being on the squad, well, that bails you out as long as he has a healthy season. And he's young enough that he'll just let LeBron still coach anyway, because that's really what half of it boils down to. I just think, you know what, with the Lakers, I was listening to Ryan Russillo. He's affiliated with Bill Simmons, who does that Ringer stuff. I think he said something really cool that he put into words what I think sometimes. last season for the Lakers, when they get to the conference finals and they have, that sweep, but they're competitive with Denver and they got all the way to the conference finals. And then this year they get bounced in the first round. The only common denominator between those two seasons were the Nuggets, which means that they weren't better than the Nuggets. So it wouldn't matter if they ended up playing the Nuggets in the conference finals or the first round. They couldn't beat the Nuggets. And sometimes I think what we can get caught into a trap of is we don't know where we rank in the playoff teams because the first round matchup isn't for us. And I'm not justifying the Lakers' behavior. I'm just saying Denver is the defending champions for a reason. And they beat the Lakers, not by a lot. It was relatively competitive, but they beat the Lakers and the Lakers can't beat them. If the Lakers were the 4th seed or the 5th seed, are they into the second round? And are we talking about this season more successfully? I think sometimes we're a bit of a victim of where they finish, right? Does Phoenix have a better record if they play OKC? Do they get a couple more wins? Do the Cavs sweep the Bucks because the Bucks have some injuries? I think your opponent in the playoffs is very, very important because the best team should be representing each conference, but there's also a bit of a trickery that goes on where, they got bounced in the first round. It's not as good as their previous season. But if they play Denver last year in the first round, they get bounced in the first round and it's the same rhetoric. So Lakerland loves to overreact. I don't know why you keep LeBron on this team at this point. I guess jersey sales and ticket sales and just sales in general are the main thing.
Surely a 20 plus scorer and I don't know, still averaging 7 and 7, give or take, right? That it's not worth keeping. Is that what you're saying?
I think I'm also, just so people are aware, I'm cooking my dinner at the same time. This is in my spare time. I'm actually going to go stir that pot in a sec, but I'll let you get your piece out. But no, what I want to say about LeBron is dominant of the ball. He is dominant of your trajectory of the team, and he's still phenomenal, and he does a fantastic job. But he is 40 years old next season.
Okay, so
and he cannot play defense the way he used to, and offensively he cannot be as consistent for you as you want. He is in a decline. His decline is just really, really slow. And when he's going to clog up your calorie...
I feel you need to let that pot burn right now because you're really lighting a fire under this whole debate right now. You guys stir that pot, right? And I'm going to give you this monologue that you are right now trying to suggest, and I brought up his stats, that LeBron James, and I'm not a huge LeBron fan, let's be clear, right? And anyone that's might have watched, 2 of our previous videos, I'm an MJ guy. I've never really batted too much for LeBron. I know he's great statistically. He's had a great longevity career. He has 4 championships. Don't get me wrong. He is a champion, superstar, all-star. Currently 25, 7, and 8 last season. And the Lakers won 47 games still. And yeah, they got bounced. They fired their coach. They probably need, I guess they definitely need to find someone else to lead them from the sidelines in that sort of sense. But at the end of the day, you're saying that LeBron should not be brought back to the Lakers for no greater reason than he is old. Like that number matters.
He's old.
He's old. If he was 50 and averaging this many points, would you bring him back or not? You would just he's old.
Well, I feel like this is a really secular look at basketball. It's not just about points. It's not just about
They won 47 games.
He dominates the ball. He dominates the ball to the point that anyone on his team has to fill a specific role and has to be really, really good at it. And what that role is being efficient when you don't have the ball in your hands very often, right? Outside of him and AD, Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, they're the players with the ball that get a little bit of time to cook when it's not, when it's LeBron's break time, right? And that's a difficult role to play for a lot of people. Not many people are actually good in the NBA at only having the ball for a couple of seconds of each possession and being efficient with it, right? And you see that with the super teams. You see, Brad Beal not being as good because he didn't have the ball as much. The Lakers have an issue where their oldest player is a ball-dominant player, and he runs, I get it. I've touted the IQ before. I've touted the playmaking before. All of that's fantastic. The problem is he cannot do it on a consistent basis anymore.
Okay, so you put better pieces around him, not get rid of him.
But there's no better pieces to put around him because of his salary. He clogs up your salary cap. Him and AD alone are taking up, I think, 80 or 90 million of the salary cap. You just don't have the money. D'Angelo's costing you money. Austin Reeves costing you money. Rui's costing you money. And then you just fill out the bench with these guys. They've got Gabe Vincent, for God's sake, on the bench, who played 9 games, shot terribly, and then was injured for the rest of the season. There's no savior for the Lakers. I think that's the issue with this coaching change and the issue with their behavior with all the coaching changes. They just think that they're one piece away, and they're not. Like, we're seeing it currently. You would have seen it all over. Well, if you were on social media, you would have seen it. There's a changing of the guard. It's actually happening right now. This is the first playoffs in a very long time that most of our star players didn't make the second round, and it's the young guys' turn. It's okay. It's okay for LeBron to fade out here, right? He's going to play with Bronny next year. That's why he's not on the Lakers anyway. So, we'll see what happens. Does LeBron go to Philly or OKC? I feel like OKC. You know what? I'm going to start it right now.
There is no chatter of LeBron going to AKC. Are you crazy?
OKC
do not want
OKC.
LeBron. Do not want LeBron.
OKC. Why don't they want LeBron? For the same reasons I just mentioned.
Is he going there on a minimum salary? Or are they going to gut their whole roster that they finished first in the West? For some reason, they're going to throw away the organic. Sam Presti is going to throw away the organic growth that he's put in for years and years and years just to get LeBron there at age 40. That's a different story to Lakers letting go of LeBron versus obviously, that another team now invests into LeBron. There's only probably 2 other organizations that make any sense of LeBron going to, as far as I'm concerned, which is Miami or Cleveland. And that's ironic because that's where he's been before.
Interesting. Okay, what's your thinking behind that? I'm curious.
Well, because he has history there. Okay, and Miami doesn't really have a need to necessarily bring LeBron over. They're not going to give up, say, Bam or give up Tyler Hero or something along those lines to bring LeBron. I do not see Pat Riley doing that. Unless LeBron goes somewhere and takes like a minimum salary, which is not going to happen. It has to be one of the teams with cap space. What are those? Philly, Orlando, I believe, okay, and OKC, okay, and I'm telling you, OKC ain't gonna, swing for him. Clearly, Magic will take LeBron, but why would he want to come to us? It doesn't make any sense. Is that the only option that, maybe we do grab Bronny because we have a mid-round pick and we'll just pick higher than we probably should because Bronny's play a second-round draft pick at best, really. Let's be clear. All right, and then now we can somehow entice LeBron in like he's a big fish, right? I don't know, man. And Philly, look. Why would he go to Philly? Why would he go to Philly? LeBron.
Just Tobias Harris just left, $40 million on the salary cap.
Dude, I think I don't know how much on the side of LeBron. So I'm not saying I'm a LeBron expert or anything, but he obviously has a lot invested in LA as well. He has a lot invested in LA as well, right? Okay, I think he's got many other business ventures there too, and he would have no motivation to necessarily leave LA, nor do the Lakers have any motivation to let him go at any time soon. He will play. Okay, he will play until he decides he is done. That's the reality. It would be one crazy GM, and that's not Rob Pelinka, to go, LeBron, man, I ain't giving you another contract.
Well, if I was a GM, I would have done that because I don't think he needs one. He needs one at all. I just think the Lakers have to move because what are the Lakers? The Lakers are very similar to how they were with Kobe, right? So they tried to build that super team after the championship run. Yeah. It failed, and then Kobe just lingered on the team, and they just weren't very good. And I know that the Lakers have made the playoffs now for a couple of years, and they've been a little feisty with the defending champs, so people think that they're doing better than they are. But this is it. This is their peak. This is their ceiling right now, because I don't think many people would confidently say that, oh yeah, they're like a piece away or a move away from being legitimate contenders next year, because they're also like a brittle bone in a 40-year-old body.
Well, I feel you're kind of contradicting yourself here a little bit. What if they did not draw the Nuggets in the first round?
That's my point, though. That's my point. Then they go through. Yeah. Then they go through. Yeah. And then they eventually meet their match somewhere else. I don't think they're better than OKC. I don't think they're better than Minnesota. And I think Dallas is probably I would give Dallas the slight edge on that one. And then I'll go Boston as well. Even if they were better than the Nuggets, I don't think that they're in the top 6. I don't think they're in the top 6. Even if they beat the Nuggets or they didn't place the Nuggets in the first round. we trick ourselves. They go to the conference
I,
finals again and they get swept,
I
or they
think
get beaten 4-1, and everyone will be like, "Oh, two conference finals in a row. We're so close."
I think you've taken panic mode to a whole nother level here, man. Obviously, one thing to move quickly to fire your coach that, after 2 seasons in that sort of sense. Another thing to let go of LeBron James and go down that pathway, which we all know is not going to happen. But you're trying to pitch that right now to the Laker, common sense,
Got to do
sort
something
of
for
thing.
content.
Yeah.
Got to do something for content. Got to get a soundbite out
And
there.
I'm not going to buy into this, right? This might be the first time that I come out and batted for LeBron that your take here has no merit and it's just the most ridiculous take you've made in 2 years, dude.
Wow, I feel like I've said some stuff though. I feel like I've really tried over the last 2 years to say something interesting.
No, I'm not saying you haven't, but you topped the cake. Just like Ant Edwards had a
Oh,
career game. You had a career game
you say
today.
this is my career?
You had a career
This is
game
my
today.
career
All
take.
right, this is a
Lovely.
career statement here that the Lakers should let LeBron go. Look, I don't see that happening. I think, look, how about what if we go to the East? We just talked about the West a little bit. We go to the East, okay? If the Celtics, okay, don't get to the finals, or in fact, if they don't win it all this season, is it time to finally give up on that? Because we've been talking about them since the last, I don't know, 2 years too, and then we know they're the bridesmaids in the East every single time, and at the finals against Warriors they did that again. Is it time to give up on them? Is it time to, oh hell, I don't know, you play pitch line like, why don't they trade Tatum for LeBron? you know, I don't know. What do you like?
Well, if the Celtics don't win it, yeah, you do have to look at yourselves and say, can we win with this group? Because again, you can be a victim of your own success. They've made so many conference finals, or they've made the finals twice and then they lose again. I'm not sure what's going to play out after this season for them, but yeah, they've had so much success and they couldn't get over the hump. That, I guess there's lots of teams in the Jordan era that probably thought the same thing. What do we have to do to win the championship? And, sometimes it's probably, I think I made this take, like they're probably the best second place team in like as a dynasty, so to speak. And obviously I remember reading comments saying, well, it's not a dynasty. And I was like, no, it's, you're ignoring the juxtaposition of the word second place dynasty. It's, sometimes I hate people, I hate people and their inability to like read or infer properly. But they've really struggled to win it all. And even if they did win it all, you'd have to look at their like run here and say, shouldn't it have yielded more? But there's lots of things that go into an NBA season. I think that's the beauty of it, right? There's so much that goes into an NBA season, and player movement, I think, really provokes parity. I know people are really anti-player movement, but player movement's probably prevented these dynasties, and they're trying to do that with the salary cap rules as well. And we probably don't see, I mean, I think I made this take as well. Like, I don't think we're going to see another dynasty. The best chance we have right now is Denver, and Denver's currently taken a bit of a sucker punch in the first game, and so they have to respond tomorrow. But yeah, I just
Look, let's say the Celtics don't win it all, and you can, I don't know exactly how salaries match up, but if you put a few pieces to sort of make it all add up, Booker for Jaylen Brown. What do you reckon there, Suns front office?
I don't know how that helps the Suns, because I know that there's some reservations about Booker. I think the contract they want to get off of is Beal, surely. Like, they have to look at the Beal contract and say,
Beal has a no trade clause.
yes, he does, but perhaps there's a way. I don't know. I don't know. Don't put me on the spot with Phoenix stuff. It's just, the Phoenix situation is bleak. It is bleak. It is not good.
I'm trying to give you some options here, all right? But
We don't have options.
you're trying to trade the guy with the no trade clause. I like how you're playing along with this.
This is logic.
I'm just adjusting the trade here. I'm trying to put. Okay, I can't trade Jaylen Brown either for some reason. Okay, I can't trade him. I can't trade him until July. Okay, but their salaries are within 5 million of each other. Okay, and each of them is tied in still 5 or 6 years in their contract, so they obviously just signed those max extensions here. I'm just saying, are these two potential franchises here, and Brad Stevens is probably not one afraid to sort of swing for the fences sometimes, that just needs a shake up, and could Booker be a great answer for someone that's an equivalent sort of talent for Jaylen Brown, and maybe Jaylen Brown could be a nice complementary piece versus the three alphas that you're trying to play with here, because clearly Jaylen Brown is Robin to Tatum right now. Yeah, Robin to Batman, and he's played that role for many seasons. Would he be better being clearly typecast as that spot against or alongside KD and Bradley Beal versus Booker here, and you guys are all alphas here?
No, no, it would be a bad idea because Tatum
So do
and Booker
nothing. So
also.
to wrap this the week up, your Final Fantasy Phoenix GM move here. As much as you guys are restricted left, right, and center because of the choices you made in the new CBA, your best answer is to do nothing for the upcoming season.
I think I think what we want to do is we want to make sure that whatever Matt Ishbia does as a business endeavor doesn't prevent him from paying the luxury tax. And he basically says, screw it. I will give you a $50 million contract and pay $100 million in luxury tax too, just to have you on my team and just continually violate the salary cap and any sense of structure.
I don't think you can do that now with the new CBA.
Okay.
I don't think
Then
you can
I
have
guess
those mid-level.
take two would be figure out a way to delay travel from the opposing team via airports, buses, whatever it may be, and just make sure that they're never in the best form before a game. And I think we would have a competitive advantage with that without them being able to set up their routines and whatnot. I think that's where we catch teams off guard. It's bleak. It's bleak in Phoenix, and I will have plenty of time over the off season and preseason and next season to really dread what's coming. I don't know why you've ended it like this.
And I note to myself that this was the beginning of the Phoenix Suns fan decline into mediocrity. How long does that last? I don't know, but I think
10
that's where
years.
you guys
It's
are.
going to last 10 years,
10 years.
just like it did last time.
All right, cheer up. Go have your dinner. I'm gonna touch the